So I was browsing videos online and I noticed that not a single video on YouTube exists that walks financial advisors through what alternative investments are. So I've decided to make the best guide on YouTube for alternative investments. If you're new to the channel, I'm Santiago. I'm a private market investment analyst. If you are a financial advisor and you're interested in using alternative investments, then you have found the right channel. So what are alternatives? Alternatives allow us to customize a portfolio. Generally speaking, when we're referring to alternative investments, we're talking about 5 different core asset classes: private equity, private credit, private real estate, hedge funds, and commodities. I like to call this the pentagon of asset classes that surround our stocks and bonds. Because the stock market has become so readily available for many of our clients, alternative investments is the way to add a difference. Outside of the return, there's typically some type of dual benefit to the investment. This might look like with real estate, tax benefits, depreciation. When we're talking about asset classes like oil and gas, there's tax benefits associated with that. This might look like passive income that comes with private credit. So when we add these other assets in our portfolio around the pentagon, we begin to add asset classes that serve some other purpose. One of the rebuttals that comes up is the fee structures and the minimum investments. Typical fee structure is 2% management fee and then 20% carried interest. This is 20% of the profits. So think about it, the investment manager is going to go out, they're going to identify all these great investments, and they want 2% just for keeping their lights on. And they also want a 20% cut of all the profits. This is the typical 2 and 20 structure. For this reason, it's critical for us to understand in alternative investments what function each asset class holds. Now, what I've done is I've linked below a guide of research that helps explain some of the benefits of alternative investments. Most companies now are not going public. So if we have our clients only in the stock market, they only have a small exposure to the US economy. We like to judge the US economy by the S&P 500, but the reality of it is the American economy runs on small and medium businesses. Your practice, if you're watching this video right now, is a small business that is helping the economy. None of these companies are traded on the stock market. So when we only focus on the S&P 500, we're only taking 500 companies out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of available investment opportunities. This means that our clients sink or swim by the stock market. As the stock market goes, their portfolio goes. And we know that the stock market is a great vehicle for building wealth, but oftentimes the stock market experiences a lot of volatility. For example, in 2022, the stock market had a 20% decline. Imagine if you have a $100 million portfolio and you had to sit through $20 million of your money going down. Maybe the client's at a point in time where they don't want that type of volatility in their portfolio. Then you can open up the portfolio to asset classes like private credit, private real estate investment, oil and gas. The list goes on and on. So as the financial advisor, we are the gatekeepers to alternative investments. Not only do we provide our clients with the access and opportunity to invest in alternative investments, but it's our responsibility to have the knowledge of alternative investments and be able to complete the due diligence on these investments and understand how they fit into the client's portfolio, what are the risks, and what are the complexities to the investment. There are a lot of complexities to alternative investments. One of the complexities is that investors lack transparency. It's the private markets. It doesn't have the same high regulation as publicly traded stock market. But let me give you a different way of thinking of this. When there is inefficiency in a market, that creates opportunities. Let me repeat that. Inefficiencies create opportunities. As you begin to serve more and more complex clients, as you begin to narrow down your focus and narrow down your book of clients, you're going to need weapons and tools in your arsenal to begin to solve these clients' problems. What are some of the other complexities in alternative investments? We have higher minimums. You cannot enter an alternative investment usually for anything under $25,000. That's where the baseline typically starts. Along with that, your investors need to be accredited. In some instances, they need to be qualified purchasers. So there is a level of nuance, and you may not have the clientele to serve them with alternative investments. But what are the risks? What are the downside? That's the number one thing we're always trying to protect. We're trying to protect against the downside. Unfortunately, in private markets, a lot of times it's an all or nothing game. So who you partner with and who you invest in a manager is so important. The managers and the funds that you select and your ability to do due diligence is at the utmost importance in the private markets. I go into every investment saying that there is a possibility that there is loss of capital. That's the reality of the game we're playing. And if we can't accept that reality as financial advisors, then we're setting up ourselves and we're setting up our clients for false expectations. So our ability to understand risk, understand the asset classes, and understand how to position our investments is key before using alternative investments. Another downside to alternative investments is the lack of liquidity. Think about your real estate home right now. Most of your clients will own a piece of real estate. It's an asset that you've invested in. It can give you cash flow in the short term. It gives you tax benefits, but to get out of it, it's a little bit of a process. You can't snap your fingers and sell your house. You have to put it on the market. You have to have a willing buyer. So that same thought process of owning a home should go to your private market assets. If you're invested in private equity, you shouldn't expect quick liquidity because the manager has invested in a private company and they're banking on that company, improving their operations and getting them a return in the future at some liquidation sale in the future. So if you knock on the manager's door, knock, 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 and say, hey, I invested $100,000 in your private equity fund and I want my money back, where's the manager going to get the money from? He already invested it into this private company. There's no active market like the stock market to sell your portion of the investment. So we have to accept this illiquidity. But I want to switch the gears in our mind a little bit around this illiquidity idea. What do we tell every single client when they invest? It's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. It helps you be patient. It helps you build the fortitude to not think about the price every day. And it also helps you keep your mind on the long-term game and the long-term focus. When you're investing in these private assets, you have to have a long-term mentality because a lot of closed-end private equity funds are at a minimum of 5 years before there's any type of liquidity event. So we talked about what alternative investments are, the asset classes. We talked about why you should use them with your clients. We talked about some of the complexities, but what is an example? What does this look like in practicality? Well, I have a great example of news that just hit this week. So the Buss family sold the Los Angeles Lakers for $10 billion. That is billion with a B. $10 billion. Dr. Jerry Buss bought the LA Lakers in 1979 for $67.5 million. We also have to include all the cash flows that were associated every single year with owning the Los Angeles Lakers. They sell tickets, concessions, there's TV deals, and you also have to account the lack of volatility. So this concept can be applied to any business. Dr. Jerry Buss bought the LA Lakers, a business. From 1979 till 2025, his family received a cash flow from this asset, while at the same time, this asset appreciated in value and then was sold at a later date. This is the idea behind alternative investments. If you're a financial advisor and you're looking to enhance your portfolio skills and learn more about alternative investments, make sure to visit the link in the description to subscribe to my newsletter, Alt Shift, where we talk about all things alternative investments. And if you're interested in learning about the best careers in finance to survive AI, make sure you visit my video linked above.